Welcome to episode 70 of the Lorinkren podcast. Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic. My thoughts or my personal opinion about polyamory. And this is by far the number one question I've received in all the Q&As I've done in my Instagram stories so far. There are a couple of really often asked questions, but this is the number one so far. What are your thoughts on polyamorous relationships? What are your thoughts on polyamory? Is it a good thing, or should you be monogamous, or what is more spiritual? All these things, or people writing me, I feel ashamed for wanting a monogamous relationship while my partner tends to go more towards a polyamorous relationship. I've been asked this question in every possible way you could ask someone a question about a topic, in every possible way. And I never really properly answered or gave my response in the stories because I need more context for that. And that is why I chose right now to record this podcast episode where I go in depth about my thoughts and personal opinion. And just before we continue here, these are my personal thoughts. Just because I choose to be in a monogamous relationship and this is my journey doesn't mean that it's your journey. And also, these are just my personal opinion. And I will say this again in the podcast, but if you choose to be in a polyamorous relationship and you are fulfilled, then that is amazing. You see, that is fucking amazing, as long as it really fulfills you at the deepest level. But before we go into it, and also why I am in a monogamous relationship and don't choose to be polyamorous, let's define the term. First of all, there is a huge misunderstanding because a lot of people mix the word polygamy and polyamory. They mix these two terms. They both come from from Greece, but polyamory means that you have more than one intimate partners, romantic relationships, you see. But polygamy means that as a man you have several spouses. So you're married to several women, which is of course not the topic we're going to go into, and it's also not the same thing. We are going to talk about polyamory, and polyamorous relationships simply means you have more than one or several people you have an intimate relationship with. So that's really important to define, and just important to define. Now let's go into the podcast. I personally am in a deeply committed monogamous relationship with my woman. Right from the start, we both expressed to one another. Actually, it was at the same time. It was magical, right? But at the same time, we expressed that we desire a monogamous and deeply committed relationship, and that is what we yearn for in a relationship. And we both decided that. And not decided, but we both said, okay, this is the only way we want to move forward with a relationship. And if one of us would have said, okay, no, I want a polyamorous relationship, the other one would have probably 100% certain would have said no. So this was really a clear decision and expressing our yearning. And we both said, and this is just my personal opinion, either I'm fully into one relationship or I'm fully out. Now, I understand that this is quite radical and quite intense, and not everyone will share that same mindset. But again, these are my own thoughts and my personal opinion. I'm not telling you what on earth you have to do. I'm just sharing my personal opinion. And I am either fully committed and deeply in a relationship or I'm not. And now let's go into the reason why I prefer to be in a monogamous relationship. So the way I see the world and the way my inner teacher teaches me is that I want to reach the highest level of union and consciousness with another person, with my woman, obviously. And spending time with other people, or if I would spend time with several intimate partners, then that would allow me less time to go deep with my woman. So again, not for everyone, but that is my journey. I want to reach the highest state of enlightenment and the highest state of freedom, and also the highest and deepest intimacy that is humanly possible in this experience. I don't want 99%. I don't want almost great. I want the absolute fucking greatness that exists in this universe. And this is also how I enter my relationship. I want to reach the highest level of union. And it would distract me if I would have to think about other people, give my kind of spread my attention to several people. You see, I want to reach the highest level, and that requires also time, right? You don't just get to the highest level. You really spend a lot of time together in meditation, in lovemaking, in deep conversation, in whatever it is that we do in a relationship, right? But that is where we reach the highest level of union, at least from my experience. And I personally don't believe that if you have 4 or 5 relationships, or let's say you have 3, that you can reach the highest level of union with all of them. I just can't believe that's possible. But if someone proves me that that's possible and I can see them, I can see their embodiment, I can feel their energy, then absolutely, then I will take everything back, because I have zero problem with admitting when I'm wrong. Zero. The other thing is why I choose to be in a monogamous relationship is that I don't want to express my sexual energy to multiple people. And this is not because I've got some dogmatic, weird, the purity and I need to be pure or some bullshit like that. But it just personally, to me, feels less sacred when I would share my sexual energy with several people. And you see, from what I know, from what I have been taught, especially through my inner teacher and guides, is that you create a really strong energetic field when you get intimate with someone on all levels, in the bedroom on all levels. You create a very unique, you co-create a very unique energetic field. And I personally would feel the subtle energy, and I wouldn't even feel that it's subtle, but I would personally feel if my woman would sleep with someone else, and also my woman would feel if I would sleep with someone else, because there is this co-creation of a unique energetic field that is being created, and I would just feel that. And honestly, I don't want to feel that. I choose not to feel that because it's just not in my... It's just not what I desire, you know? I don't desire to feel that, because the more conscious, the more spiritually evolved you become, the more you're able to feel, the more you're able to recognize. You start to, we could call it the third eye definitely, but you start to really see and feel beyond your 5 senses. And this is not woo-woo. This is what happens when you practice breath work or advanced yogic breath work or yoga very, 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 in a very focused and very disciplined way. And when you also see your relationship as the yoga of intimacy, and then go deeper and deeper and deeper and become more one and reach higher states of union, you simply have access to so much more. I know I'm getting a little bit abstract here, but yeah, I'm trying to stay with the topic of polyamorous relationships. But as you all know, I love to ramble. But still, I personally would feel that, my woman would feel it, and I don't want to feel that. Simply because this life is... I have my preferences, and this is not what I want to feel. And I'm not saying that this means the higher or the more spiritually evolved path is a monogamous relationship. If you don't mind feeling that, if you don't mind having all these different energies being around you and with you in some way, you know, then absolutely go for it. If you don't mind that, that's amazing. That I'm not saying that it's more spiritually evolved, I'm just saying it's my personal preference. The other thing is about being deeply committed and devoted to a person. And that is really the hardest path of a relationship, in my opinion. And I think you would all agree if you're with one person and you're deeply committed to them. Because what happens is, if you are just committed to this one person, which I am, which I choose to be, is that you don't only become one necessarily in a union and on a spiritual and angelical level, but also your minds start to collide. Everything starts to become whole, become part of the one. And as everything becomes part of the one, that is the intense resistance our ego and our shadow feels in relationships, because our shadow cannot coexist in a reality where we go back into consciousness, into the infinite, into the oneness of all. And that is what happens when you are really deeply committed to one person, is you go into that absolute state of oneness, if you choose to go there and if you do the work, obviously. And of course, you face all kinds of different challenges along this path, because your shadows, your core wounds, father wound, mother wounds, and every fucking trauma is in the way of there. Because a relationship, from my perspective, is the highest spiritual path. A relationship is the expression of the evolution of consciousness, which means that just like consciousness, you are becoming more conscious, if you listen to this, then you are on this path. But consciousness is always evolving. It's always evolving. And until it becomes one again, until there is not a single separation anymore, but it's all part of the one, you see, of the one source, going back to source. It's also a way we can put it. And because of consciousness is always evolving, a relationship is just an embodied expression of that evolution of consciousness. And that evolution of consciousness, in my opinion, is quite difficult if you are with several people. It's just, in my personal opinion, makes it much more difficult. Because to truly evolve to the highest level, it requires just a lot of focus, a lot of presence, a lot of depth, a lot of devotion, or all of that, not just a lot, all of your presence, depth and devotion. And again, spending here time with several people would be distracting to me. And while I'm saying that the path of choosing one person, well, we could argue that you're choosing this person, but to some degree you are. To choose to be with one person in a deeply committed relationship, I said to you, it's the hardest path. But as well, that is where the beauty lies. Because it sets, and stay with me, it sets the stage for the most triggers, for the most heated arguments to appear. Two minds, two cultures, two traumatic nervous systems are colliding, just like two beautiful souls. And that intensity, that collision, that erosion, you see, that intensity is an intensity, if it's being harnessed the right way, that leads to profound and deep awakening. And I know this might sound abstract and not really graspable, but I can tell you this comes from an embodied experience. When there is a lot of heat in a relationship, a lot of triggers, and I'm not talking about some highly dysfunctional, really intense triggers and you can't get... I'm not talking about that. But in a relationship where you love one another, things can get heated. We can get disappointed. We can feel rejected. We can feel abandoned, which is all normal. This just happens, no matter what fucking amazing level of consciousness you have reached. There is nothing fucking wrong with feeling rejected, feeling disappointed, and all of these things. It totally depends, of course, how, but these are also healthy expressions if they are being treated in a healthy way and don't go into an extreme where it gets dysfunctional and toxic. But when two people really love each other, there's this really intense heat. This heat then can lead to amazing heat in the bedroom, amazing deep conversations and passion, but it can also lead to a lot of triggers, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension. But this is the kind of tension, suffering, and drama that you have to use and harness to go deeper. You see, you have to be so fucking done with that. And this pushing, this heat which is constantly coming towards you, in this heat, if you truly embrace it, and if the other person as well, you both have to make that internal decision and commitment. If you truly embrace that and really harness that, and choose to go even deeper, choose to transcend that even more, what happens then is that you go beyond, you reach a state of connection, alignment, or consciousness where you are beyond these triggers and this everyday fucking drama and ridiculous nonsense we go through. Where it doesn't matter, okay, did they send me a heart or a smiley? How did they text me? What did they say to me? Oh, they gave me less attention here and there. All these things no longer matter because you have used this intensity, this immense heat and love for one another to elevate higher on the path of highest awakening. And that is where the beauty lies. And in my opinion, that would be, in my opinion, very difficult to do in polyamorous relationships because you are not getting to such a heat. Because obviously, if you're dating several partners, you can always decompress from your relationship. And of course, decompressing from your relationship and spending time alone is fucking crucial. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. But what I'm saying is when two people are really ready and willing to evolve to the highest level, to reach the highest state of union and not some twin flame toxic nonsense that you read on Google or fucking I don't know where, but really this deep internal commitment, real sacredness, not some conceptualized sacredness. That, in my opinion, is not really possible if you constantly decompress and are with other people and then kind of, and it never gets to this intense heat where you make the decision, okay, either I transcend it or I die. And also another thing is why I choose to be in a monogamous relationship is I also don't want to, I said this before, spread my attention to several people. And also it seems just, it's much more simple for me. So as a man with a very masculine core, I do have deep feminine traits, but in essence I've got a masculine core, very strong one. It's just distracting to me, you see, because I've got a unique soul's mission. I mean, my being in service to the world is everything. This here right now is everything to me. This is my deepest truth. And I don't want to text or call with several people. And I honestly believe that constantly texting and calling with someone is a waste of your energy and time. As physical touch is, and physically being with one another allows and invites the deepest presence, depth and devotion. Now I totally understand if there is no other way, especially here with COVID restrictions, having a long distance relationship, and I totally understand that. That's an exception and everything is possible, right? If two people deeply love one another, and also, I mean, this is another topic, but in a long distance relationship, you have to have a shared goal of eventually being with one another and not just not seeing each other constantly, which in my opinion is at some point not possible anymore. But again, everything is possible, but you have to have a shared goal, you see, that you're working towards. But that is another topic. But still, otherwise, if you can see the person physically, texting and calling is a waste of your time, because it's just more difficult with texting and calling to bring real deep presence. It is possible, but it requires more energy and it's also a little bit trickier. Then I also mentioned this already about the decompressing. So let's say you have a lot of arguments with one partner in a polyamorous relationship, and then you kind of decompress because you spend 1 or 2 weeks with your other partner. And that, in my opinion, unless you are really at a certain state of consciousness, can be used to numb yourself. And I'm not saying that every every person that is in a polyamorous relationship is doing this, but I bet my fucking ass this is happening all the time. So I think polyamorous relationships, unless you have reached a certain level of consciousness, simply invite a form of numbing, a place to run away, to sexually numb yourself. And yeah, this is, I believe, when you're with one person and it's tensed, then you can't escape that. You really have to either face that or end the relationship. And by facing that, you learn so much about yourself and the other person, about polarity and entering deeper realms of intimacy. And also, one of the last things I'm going to say, not actually one of the last, but last but not least, a sacred union co-creates such a strong energetic field and also attraction for one another. Okay, I just thought my camera mic wasn't on, but creates such a strong pull and attraction. And what I've experienced is that everything else starts to fall away, which doesn't mean that you're no longer attracted to someone. We still have our biological needs. We still get attracted. That's just part of being a human. You cannot shut that down or control that. Even the greatest spiritual teacher, the greatest level of consciousness, might have an emotion of being turned on, but it's about what you choose to do with that, whether you're out of integrity with that or whether you are able to just, all right, beautiful, and I bring that into my relationship. If you're in a monogamous relationship, of course. But everything else kind of starts to fall away. That is what I've experienced. You close the energetic doors, and this is also really important in my opinion. I don't want to have these doors open for constantly new people, because that would drain me and I would be able to feel that, as I shared before. And another fact is just that polyamorous relationships are a perfect invitation for people who are afraid to commit. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone who is in a polyamorous relationship is afraid to commit. It could be completely enlightened and awakened person. However, because also ancient sages and tribes have lived this lifestyle, it's not like it's just out of a blue, just something modern. But it's perfect for this kind of, what I said in my episode about free spirits. The free spirit, right? The free spirit. Yeah, I don't see relationships the way they're meant to be. Can we not just be something in between? But I'm avoiding you constantly, and when we go deeper, I push you away, and when you pull away, then I come needy into your life. It's this kind of bullshit, right? Of people who are afraid to commit, and they kind of want to be in a relationship, but then they don't want to be. And yeah, this is also the perfect invitation for that. And also for those that that I would say, I'm very careful what I say right now, but that are trapped in the kind of superficial kind of idea about, okay, I need to sleep with a wide range of a big variety of people for some reason, to strengthen your ego, or because they feel bored simply because they don't know how to bring true presence, depth and devotion into the bedroom. And this is the truth. If you get bored, right, and then so what I'm basically saying here is, if you get bored in the bedroom because of the same routine and patterns that are happening constantly, and then you choose to be in a polyamorous relationship out of that, I'm like, wait a second, why don't you learn how to create sexual polarity? Why don't you join a masterclass of mine, the Feminine Testing Masterclass on the 14th of March, for instance? That is where you learn how to create sexual polarity, where you are able to get the polarity to its peak, right? And before you learn that, I wouldn't go into a polyamorous relationship. Yeah. And also, if you experience a deep union once with a person, then why would you want to get intimate with someone else? Yes, maybe to because you're attracted to them and you find them, they turn you on or whatever to some degree because you find them beautiful, the way they look, whatever. But at a deeper level, you don't feel the same thing for them, right? And one of the last things I also want to say here is that I totally understand that some people say the concept of, I always say my woman, right? My woman. And a lot of people have see this as an egoic mindset, right? And of course, I know that my woman is not mine. And I know many would label this as something from the ego, that the ego is wanting to grasp and control. I own that one person. And yet I believe there is a sacred beauty and depth in a little bit of, and not when you say I want to own that person, but there is a sacred beauty and depth in a sense of when you say that's my woman, that's my man. And there is also sacred beauty and depth in a little bit of jealousy. And it's just so much more archaic, and it just resonates more with me, and it's also less hipster in my opinion. But this is my personal opinion, and if you feel called to be in a polyamorous relationship, then please go for it. But I wouldn't go for it just because people talk you into it, shame you for it, or because it's hipster or modern. I would recommend you to connect to your deepest, I invite you to connect with your deepest values and deepest yearning, and then decide from there. And if you decide from there, whatever you choose will be amazing, because spirit will be with you, through you, and yeah. And I believe I will stick to this opinion until I take my last breath, but who knows? Never say never, right? I might change my mind, which I don't believe, but also I don't want to say it's like this for the rest of my life, because of course I don't know. But still, this is my personal stance right now. This is my opinion, my thoughts. Just before you go, guys, rate this podcast 5 stars if you enjoy it. Subscribe to it, share it with friends. This is an amazing way how we can reach more people with the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, for being here. I really appreciate that you're showing up consistently, doing the deep inner work. It's amazing. This is what the world needs. And I find it's a very beautiful conversation also about, and this is just my personal opinion. This is the reason why I choose to be in a monogamous relationship. Just before you go, guys, I've got my feminine testing masterclass happening at the 14th of March. We've got so many people already signed up, and it's going to be really epic. Guys, feminine testing, there is no offering like that out there. I would highly recommend you to check out the offering, and because this is so unique and so life-altering in your dating life or relationship. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. I wish you a really, really beautiful day, evening, wherever you are. Thank you.